I'm pretty much sure that you are super confused right now about all the different type of Facebook ad account structure that different people are promoting online. Some people say, hey, go with a single CBO setup. No, actually it's better to go with an ABO testing and CBO scaling. Other people say to use cost cap and then bid cap. So everything is confusing. And the raw reality, guys, is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. You need to use your brain to actually understand what is the best Facebook ad structure that you can use specifically for your brand based on number of products, AOV, budget, KPIs, and a lot of different variables. So in this video, I will show you exactly what is the Facebook ad account structure matrix that we use in our agency to actually decide which Facebook ad structure to use based on the brand that we work with. And we'll be spending a lot of money on Facebook ads for our clients in the past months. So we have developed during the years different type of Facebook ad structure that we use based on the different brands that we work with. I will be showing you mainly for different type of Facebook ad structure that we're using nowadays, and they are working after Meta Gem and Andromeda, and I will teach you exactly how they works and when to use them. So without further ado, let me jump on my screen so I can show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So the main issue that I see right now is that a lot of people just copy whatever they see online in terms of Facebook ad account structure and just use it for their brand. But in reality, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for the best Facebook ad account structure, because it depends on a lot of variables like number of products, AOV, business goals, business type, industry, and budget. So to solve this issue, I've built an internal ad account metrics that we use in our own agency, and we spend 10 million plus per year to understand which ad account best fit each brand that we work with. I've shared this 4 or 5 months ago already, but now I have adapted based on new strategies that we've been testing after Andromeda. Before we actually dive into different type of strategies, I want you guys to understand why the strategies that I'm going to share with you in the different ad account structure that I'm going to share with you are relevant now post Andromeda. And in order for you to do that, you need to understand into the actual details how Meta Andromeda properly works, how Meta Gem works. I know you probably heard about this already, so I'm gonna be super quick about this. So the main thing you wanna see, the main takeaway from the entire Meta Andromeda article is that, of course, you need creative diversification, but basically you need to use different angles and messages in the same campaign. Like, there is no need for you anymore right now to use a different campaign or different ad set with different angles for different ads, because the system is actually going to optimize ads in different type of sequences and optimize the actual targeting within the ads itself. And Gem is the architecture behind Andromeda that is going to create the sequence of ads that will be shown to people. So this is actually very important for you to understand, because right now Meta is not optimizing the winning ad, but it's optimizing the winning ad sequence. So how different ads are being shown to people in different ways and in different sequences. So based on this new direction from Meta Andromeda and Gem, we can actually identify 5 core pillars of Meta ads that we will be using in order to create our Facebook ad account structure. So the first one is the Meta business model. So Meta makes money by selling you impression, which is the inventory. So impressions equal like more people, more time on the platform, more revenue for Meta. So what you ideally want to do, you want to make sure that people have a very good experience on Meta, because by doing this, Meta is making more money, and ideally you're making more money. So Meta needs to find a balance between user experience and performance, because if Meta is only going to show very high performing ad, but there is no engagement on the platform, people are just going to leave. So your ad, they don't just need to be very selling, but they need to be also engaging for people to engage. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if this is not gonna happen, then Meta is most likely going to spend a little bit more budget towards those creatives that get a higher engagement. And this is when things get complicated, and that's why we need to find another account structure that can kind of defend ourselves from this situation here. Then cost versus value. When we run ads, we need to understand that we run ads, we bid by highest volume, lowest cost. What does it mean? It means that Meta is going to put more budget on these ads that have a lowest CPA, which is not the highest ROAS. So you need to understand that when it comes to Facebook ads, because if your goal is to get a high return on the ad spend, then you understand that Meta is not going to put more budget towards those type of creatives, but it's going to push more the creatives with the lowest CPA. And this is just, a recap of how things actually works. Then third, learning phase and consolidation. The learning phase is basically equal to stability, and it just gives you a little bit more stability inside the account, because it's supposed to improve the performance of the ad in the long run once it gets enough events. Now, usually it requires 50 conversion events per week, and what you need to do to understand the daily budget that you need to put in this ad is like, what the amount of budget that I need to actually generate 50 conversions per week based on my current CPA. Below 10k a month, 20k a month in ad spend, don't actually get obsessed over this, because it's not actually going to mean anything for you. But what you want to do overall when it comes to small budget, you want to consolidate campaign. So Meta, since the learning actually happen at the ad set level, you want to make sure that Meta learns faster. So rather than splitting across, if let's say you have 20 creatives, rather than having 20 different ad sets, or even like 5 ad sets with 2 creative or 3, 4, whatever creatives each inside, just have one single ad set with all creatives inside. So Meta is optimizing even better the actual ad set, because it's taking all the events within the single ad set, not within the single ad, because the actual learning phase happen at the ad set level, not the creative level. Fourth pillar is the creative signals. So now this is actually very important, because this actually changed over time before and after Andromeda. So while before Andromeda, you needed to give a little bit more clarity to the algorithm when it comes to creatives, and for instance you had to put specific creatives of a specific angle inside the single ad set. Right now with Meta Andromeda, this is not necessarily the case, because Meta Andromeda is actually going to optimize the ads and deliver the ads to different audiences based on the actual creative itself, and so the learning happens in a different way. That's why creative diversification and consolidation is now the key to actually scale, and by the way, this is how Andromeda works. And finally, the fifth pillar is the ad sequence. So with MetaGem, Meta doesn't optimize anymore the winning ad, but optimize the winning sequence. So if you turn off top of funnel ads, because they're like at the top of the sequence, or the first stage of the sequence, then the entire sequence is gonna be broken. And so even if the return ad spend seems bad on top of funnel ads, turn that off, the entire ad account will go down in terms of performance. So this is actually very important for you to understand. Now, once we have all of this, let's actually go into the different type of Facebook ad campaign structure that works nowadays after Gem and Andromeda. The first one is the OG test and scale split. Yes, this campaign still work. What you want to do, you want to have an ABO for testing, and you want to have then an Advantage Shopping Plus, cost cap or bid cap for scaling, or you can have a CBO in testing and Advantage Shopping Plus, cost cap in scaling. So you have two different campaigns. ABO, you test creatives, batch by different ad set, and then you take the winners and you move them into the cost cap. Of course, when you take the winners, you need to think about the sequence, not about the single ad itself, because if you move 1 or 2 ads, things are just not going to work in the scaling campaign. The scaling campaign needs to be a winning sequence. So think about all the ads with different level of frequencies that goes together in order to maximize the overall return on ad spend of the entire campaign. And the same thing happened with CBO. The only different setup is that in this case you don't decide the budget to put in single creative. So this is how the process looks like. Inside the ABO or CBO setup, you test angles, test personas, test landing pages, overall creatives, and test offers. Then identify the winners, copy the post ID, and scale with a cost cap or bid cap. Now there are pros and cons. So the pros of the ABO is that you have more manual testing. You can allocate more budget to creatives that wouldn't spend otherwise. But that's actually a pros or a cons. Thing is that Meta usually spend more budget towards those creatives that have a higher volume of capacity that can actually handle. So if your creative doesn't get a spend, most likely there is a not working creative, because you might get 1 or 2 purchases now, but it's not a creative that can handle a lot of spend, which is not something that you want. Well, the cons of the ABO setup is that it goes against Meta Andromeda, because you optimize single ads and no ad sequences when you look at the creatives or the ad set level. You need more time to manage everything, because you need to look at all the different ad sets inside the campaign, and you need more precision to actually manage, because if you miss something, everything is going to collapse. And then when it comes to CBO, everything is basically reversed. The second setup is a single CBO multi-ad set setup, where you basically have one CBO per product, per country, per funnel. Then you have one ad set inside for each test that are actually called batch. Independently from what the batch is, can be a mix of static ads, different angles, same angle, different personas, videos, statics, all mixed together. So there is no specific rule of batching. Just put only once they are produced and ready to launch. Pros about this: Andromeda friendly, of course. less time to manage, so there is a higher efficiency. Meta spend and pick on best performance, full funnel budget distribution, avoid creatives overlapping. The cons of this is that there is a risk of meta spending on high engagement creatives rather than real winners, because probably those creatives are giving a better experience to people. So there is this trade-off, right? You have ad number one, where there is a good engagement, but the CPA is like 20. Then you have an ad number two where the engagement is bad, but the CPA is 10. Sometime Meta is going to spend more budget on this creative here, which is a 20 CPA, so it's higher, but the engagement, so the experience of the ad for people inside the platform is much better. And since Meta needs to protect themselves, and it's actually a quality score written inside the ad manager, you can check it by yourself when it says above average, average, and below average, it's going to spend more budget towards this ad here, because this ad has the highest engagement. And so that's actually the risk of this setup. Risk of you turning off ads just because the ROAS is low without understanding the user awareness stages, because you might be thinking singular about the single ads within the overall campaign setup. You might end up having too many ad sets at one point and lose focus about everything, like what is going on inside the account. You can be stuck on middle funnel or bottom funnel spending, because sometimes Meta spend more budget on creatives with a frequency of 2 or 3, as I also show in another of my video. And moment you increase the budget, Meta is going to spend more budget over these creatives, probably because there is a better engagement or more signals, and so everything will be stuck. If you do manually, you can allocate more budget towards top of funnel creatives. Then the third campaign structure is a single CBO winning ad set option, which is a variation of the first one. The only difference is that when you launch new ad sets, you keep launching new ad sets, at one point you have some winning creatives. So what you do, you want to duplicate all the winning creatives, 6, 5, 10, whatever, inside another ad set inside the same campaign and call it as a winning ad set. And this is what usually people define as a control ad set. So you have all the creatives inside, duplicate them, and technically Meta is going to spend more budget towards these creatives because they're already proven to work inside the other ad set. There is no specific rule again for batching, and it's basically apply the same concept as before. Now, what is the pro here? Again, Meta Andromeda friendly, less time to manage, so there is more efficiency. Meta spend and pick on best performance. Force a little more spend on winning ads because you are isolating them into another ad set and putting them all together. And so technically, if Meta sees that they're performing well, Meta is going to push more budget towards these creatives. The cons are basically similar to what I just mentioned before. The only difference here is that there might be an audience overlapping because you're using the same creative that are in one ad set and then duplicating them inside another ad set in the same creative. So there might be an overlapping within these two ad sets in terms of targeting. So in this case, the performance might drop a little bit, but usually this is not an issue unless you're spending a lot of money. And then the fourth option is a single CBO, single ad set setup. So what you do here, you basically use one CBO per product, per country, or per funnel, one ad set inside with all the ads inside. Now, then there might be some limitation here because Meta might limit to 50 ads inside a single ad set. Sometimes this limit is just not there, so you can just put more ads simply inside a single ad set. Now, what are the pros? The pros is that here you're building a 100% sequence, Andromeda friendly. Even less time to manage, you have less ad set and less decision to actually think. The only thing that you can turn off and on are the actual ads within the single ad set, and force a little more spend on winning ad because you're not creating new ad set. And when you don't create new ad set, usually Meta really picks the best performing within the single ad set, because when you launch new ad set, usually Meta starts spending a little bit more budget, so there is this kind of forcing situation. And also this one, avoid creatives overlapping because you're not duplicating creatives around. What are the cons? Risk of Meta spending on high engagement creatives is basically like very similar to the others. And then there is this question marks cons, which is basically restart the learning phase of an ad set every time new ads are added, because what is going to happen is that when you add new creatives inside the ad set, you're restarting the learning phase. But the big question here is that is this actually going to decrease your performance or not? Because usually when you restart the learning phase, technically Meta is trying to go into a new audience, but it's going to leverage the existing data inside the ad set at that level to actually go there and find new audience. So probably this is actually even going to optimize a little bit more your performance. It's not sure yet. We're seeing very good performance with this setup actually, so I'm going to show you everything in the next step. And so this brings me to the final topic of this video, which is the most important one, of course, and it is the Facebook ad structure decisional metrics that we use in our agency. So here we have two different things to keep in mind: the budget and the number of products. Based on this, you can decide which type of Facebook ad account structure works for your brand. Let's start with the first one here. So low budget, one hero product. What you do here, you can easily do a test and scale split and a single CBO setup, single ad set. Why? This setup here is the easiest one because you consolidate the learning inside a single ad set without splitting into different ad sets. And the test and scale setup also works in case you want to test specific landing pages or you're testing specific angle and you really want to put some budget in there to see how they perform. Then we have the second option, which is still €1 product, but now you are increasing the budget. Things are working, you find the angle, you find what works, and so you want to scale. What is going to happen here? So here you can still keep the test and scale split, still doing what you're doing, and then you have a single CBO winning ad set. So what you can do here, you're going to duplicate all the winners inside the same campaign, just create a new ad set just for the winners inside the same campaign. And then what you do at the same time, you can have a bid cap or a cost cap campaign that is running simultaneously with the winning ads. In this case, you can leverage bid cap and cost cap to spend more during those days where you have a highest predictable performance, like for instance could be on weekends, for instance, or like when there is a specific promotion like Black Friday, these kind of things. And then the final part, which is the high budget €1 product. So in this case you have a test CBO and scale cost cap, so you can still do a test scale. The only difference is that from stage 2 you should switch to a CBO setup, which is technically easier to manage, but if you want to go granular about the testing and you really want to see the performance of things, then you can simply go into an ABO setup and then you scale with a cost cap. Or here you can simply have a single CBO setup in two different ways, either a multi-ad set or a winning ad set. So you can have just one single ad set for each creative that you launch, or you can have one single ad set for each creative batch that you launch, plus another ad set with all the winning ads. The issue here is that this might stop working here. I will actually probably remove this because there will be some audience overlapping because you're spending a lot of money, and so most likely this is going to check a little bit your performance because there will be this audience overlapping issue. Then you always need to have your bid cap or cost cap on the side. Now, if you have 1 to 10 products and the budget is less than 500 a day, in this case, what you want to do, you can go with a single CBO, single ad set, and what you want to do, you want to have one campaign per product, and or you can have a single CBO multi-ad set, of course, one per product. So the situation is basically as simple as one single CBO, one ad set, all created inside for one product. You have 2, 3 products, you have one of each for each product, or same structure. The only difference is that instead of launching the ads within the same ad set, you launch them as a batch new ad set inside each campaign for each product. Then medium budget, you ideally want to start focusing on the best performing product here, but here you're going to have a single CBO setup, multi-ad set, or single CBO setup, winning ad set. And what you want to do here at the same time, you want to have a bid cap and a cost cap running. In this case, ideally you want to have a bid cap or cost cap for the best product. Let's say in this case there are 2 products, then you want to have a bid cap for product number 1, cost cap or cost cap for product number 1, and another bid cap cost cap for the product number 2. And then finally you want to go in this situation where you really spend a lot of money and so you cannot check things simultaneously, and what you want to do, you want to just have a single CBO setup, multi-ad set without the winning ads inside a single ad set, otherwise it might cause creative overlapping across all the different creatives that you already have inside the campaign, and a bid cap, cost cap on the side. Ideally, you want to have this for each product that you have. Finally, you have 10 plus product. This is more like for fashion store or like kitchenware, you have a lot of different SKUs. What you want to do here, you want to have a single CBO setup, single ad set, just when you're getting started for one product, and it's actually very similar to what you were doing with 1 to 10 product. The only difference is that here, what you might need to do is putting together in terms of like collection. So you might have like t-shirt collection or a jeans collection if you're a fashion store, for instance, for like a fashion brand, and have one single CBO set up for each different collection, or you can have instead a single CBO and different ad set, one ad set for each collection. And then you start increasing the budget here, and then what you want to do, you want to have a single CBO multi ad set, so you want to keep add more ad set. And the other option here is that you can still add more ad set while at the same time you build your winners inside the single ad set by duplicating them inside the existing campaign. At the same time, you have your bid cap and cost cap campaign that are running simultaneously. Now, the issue here is that, again, there might be some overlapping depending on how much you're spending. If you go more towards the 2K per day, you might see a little bit of overlapping, but if that's not the case, you also need to understand how things are going inside the account. That's why again, it's very difficult to give a one-size-fits-all solution, but based on the data that you see inside that account, you should move things based on what you see on time. And finally, you have the situation where you have a lot of different products and high budget, and so what you want to do, you want to have a single CBO per product with all the assets inside for different batch for different products or collection, and then you want to have a bid cap or cost cap on the side for each product or collection that you are pushing. And guys, that's basically it when it comes to the Facebook ads structure decisional metrics. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to reply to everyone as usual. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.